Hey everyone, and welcome to another Black Unicorn Red Pill discussion. So our last video we discussed how I became red pills. This is how I became red pilled part 2. In part 1 I discussed really more my childhood and some of the experiences I had growing up that led me more down the blue pill path. I'd say I was born woke. I was born red-pilled in that sense that I was born a very feminine, sweet, submissive, a love man, want to be a housewife, want to cook and clean and just live in a tropical environment, eat fruit my whole life, right? And I did what I was told because I am a good girl. I'll do as I'm told. I was told to go to want a career. To go for one, to pursue higher education, and for the most part I followed that path. And one of the first things I did to lead me down that path was change my diet. I started consuming dairy and then a lot more animal products, more starches, and I started to change a lot of things, and then I started to cleanse my diet. And so I realized that when you eat right, you think right, you act right, you live right. So as I ate better, I ate right, I began to think right, began to act right, and live better. But that wasn't it, There's a lot of unlearning to do after almost 20 years of being raised a certain way, of thinking a certain way, 2 years is not going to be enough to undo that. So it took about 8 years. We're on year 9 actually, of this journey. And so the biggest catalyst was, as I mentioned, the death of my grandmother, my mother's mother. So I want to go back a little bit more into my life and explain why was that so important and what did I learn and how that red pilled me. You see, at that time, I was a huge community advocate. I moved a few times. I moved a lot in my childhood because my mother was very focused on making sure that I had the best life, which is what, she did her best, and I'm very grateful for that. And for my journey, I had to move. I experienced a different life in Hawaii, from Texas, from California, and then DC. But I moved on to DC. When I moved to DC, it was to be with my father, my family, and that was a great experience. Is where I learned that I need to do better, that I need to learn more, that I need to understand men more and the male-female dynamic, and I just learned a lot. But the way people live in the neighborhood I lived in DC called Deanwood, wonderful neighborhood full of rich history. And there's a lot of institutional racism in the sense that there was just we called it a food swamp. There was plenty of places to get something to eat, but it was mostly unhealthy, right? Like a swamp is not a desert. A food desert means there's no food. A food swamp is this, or a desert means there's no water. A swamp means there's plenty of water. It's just poisonous, right? So that was where our area was, a food swamp. And so my grandmother was a community activist, my mother's mother. She spent over 40 years dedicated herself to her community in Staten Island. She helped thousands of people have a better life. And I mean thousands of families who came out of Staten Island, especially the Park Hill complexes, have a much better life and better opportunities and inspiration thanks to the one and only my grandmother. This is proven. And, she, married young, 18, had her children young. By the time she was 24, she had her last child. And by the time, she was in her 40s, her children were grown out of the house. And unfortunately, my grandfather died not too far after that. And so she was left a widow, with a very empty nest. And so she filled that nest with things, which is a discussion we'll do another day about hoarding. That was actually in the later years. much later years. She was just very private. People in her community weren't allowed into her home because she just didn't want them in her home. Because I remember going and visiting her home. My childhood, her home was just a nice, normal grandma's home. Stuffed, but it wasn't stuffed. But so she dedicated herself to her community. She dedicated herself to helping. I mean, while she had her children, my mother has a lot of stories of how they practically adopted girls in the community. Orphans. They would children who were mentally disabled. Back then, they said retarded. How she helped children who were labeled as mentally disabled or retarded. Because we know how the school system loves to label Black children, African children, as being disabled when we're not. And so she would help fight this. She would, prove that they weren't, and then these children would end up, going to college, getting jobs, careers, marrying, families, the whole 9 yards. A single mother with 5 children who doesn't have time to go to the food bank. My grandmother would go to the food bank and get the food for her whole family of 6 and bring it to her so her and her baby could eat, and help them with their homework. My grandmother did with a huge impact on her community. But you know what I realized when she died? None of those people showed up for her. Not a single one. And I could get into stories about me and my grandmother. But let's just say that there was an intentional reason why my mother made sure that I never lived anywhere close to my grandmother. And she said she was protecting me, and she was. My grandmother did and has done everything out of love. And that's another discussion. You can 100% love and do everything out of love. But if you're just not 100% healthy, everything you produce, what you produce is of you. But that aside, and some of us, some of her siblings, for example, they just live places because that's where they wanted to go. I have no qualms to think that some of my great uncles moved to Nevada. It had anything to do with my grandmother whatsoever. Right? We just moved around as people. But when it came time to do the work, what had happened when she passed, which is sadly just like when her mother passed, or my great grandmother passed. My grandmother, which had a habit of not pick up the phone for days on end, not returning your calls. She'd never pick up the phone. You always have to leave a voice message, and she'd pick up during your voice message or not, or call you back. And so what happened was almost 3 weeks, I think 3 weeks went by where all of her phones, she had several cell phones, were all going to voicemail. All of her voicemails were full. All of her answering machines were full. She wasn't responding to anybody. No one had seen her. And my mother was living in California. I'm in DC. My grandmother lived in New York, Staten Island. The closest next of kin was my aunt, who was in Baltimore. My aunt, however, is also disabled. She's not someone you'd send on a mission to go figure out what happened to your mother. So my mother called me and said, "You gotta go." All right. And I was literally, remember that day very clearly, at home, minding my business, living my best life. I was in the middle of a community project. I was planning, some materials. I had a schedule lined up, and I was ready. I had some meetings. Life is going well. My mom calls me that's okay, cancel everything. Made my calls, called somebody to watch my place, and caught the next bus to Baltimore to meet with my aunt. We caught the next bus to New York, and yes, she's dead. And it was horrible. Not only is my grandmother dead, but now we have to just all this red tape. People in the community, as soon as they found out she was dead, everybody in all of the Park Hill region was just like, "Oh no, no." And when I called different auspices, hospitals, the city council office, everyone knew my grandmother. Everyone knew her. And everyone was crying, and "Oh no, this is horrible. What do you need? Let us know what you can help." And we would just say, "Yeah, come to the apartment, help us clean it out." "Oh, I'll work. Okay, I'll see what I can do." "Yeah, we need money for a funeral service." "Oh, we'll set up a collection." People did not help, y'all. The only people who paid for her service were four of her brothers who put the money together. The funeral home knew her because she had gone to so many funerals that brother gave us like a $1,200 discount. He took care of it. You know, so he helped out. Organizations that she founded and helped found to help the Liberians, to help all these different groups, these community associations. They sent 2 people and they said they're gonna host a collection and they never got back to us. And we called them and we like, no, nothing. You know, my father, who's not related to her at all, you know, he helped financially with the dumpster, right? But none of the relatives, none of the other people helped. We had to sit there, be very humble and gracious, and listen to all these people tell us how great she was and how much she's done and how we owe everything we have to her, and I wouldn't have this career. Look at my nice car. I own a house now, all because of your grandmother. Fantastic. So you have a house, a car, a career, a husband, thanks to my grandmother. Can we have $100? Can we have 2 hours and 2 hands of help? Now, we did get help from the community. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that we didn't. But the help from the community we got is about probably less than 1% of what she put in. And so I realized that, you know, my passions in the community, I'm going to help the community. I'm going to want to help the community. These videos is a way of me helping the community. However, who was there for her in the end? Her children, her grandchild. And how blessed, you know, she is that I was even still there. Because here I am now, you know, in Europe. I'm out, and I do not plan to go back. I look at the difference between how my my aunt is going, and versus my grandmother. My grandmother had a husband. Her husband, after he died, my grandmother was able to live for almost 40 years on his pension. And because she had 3 children, only one of those children had 1 child. And her oldest daughter actually died. But from that, she had 3 living relatives who would help her. And because my mother had me and my father is a good man, my father came up and helped. And because, you know, and one of my cousins came up and helped. And other family members came and helped and put money together. Because she had siblings and she had children. I had no siblings. I'm an only child. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, wow, I'm not going to have brothers and sisters who can help me because I'm only a child. And, you know, here I am in my 20s. And I'm so focused on this community who is only focused on stopping me from helping them. Who is going to help me? What if I succeed and we get this community, this cooperative grocery store built, and it is successful, and I had this huge vision and how we can transform Black communities nationwide with cooperative grocery stores by creating this template and scaling it. Whew. But what if that all works? What if that all happens? Who's gonna take care of me? Who's gonna love me? Whose pension do I get to live on? You know, I'm blessed that my father and my mother, that they help me. They help pay my bills. They take care of me. My uncle, he'll take care of my apartment. They help paid for me to be there. But what happens when that stops? They're gonna die before I will. Who's gonna take care of me? You know? Who's gonna love me? How am I gonna survive my legacy? Because my grandmother's legacy in the community died with her. But she lives on through us. And so that was the last red pill moment for me. It helped me realize that I've got to get my act together. I got to figure out whatever it is, do whatever it takes. Because clearly, if I was going to live a charmed life, I'm going to talk about people who are charmed. I know charmed people. I was living a charmed life. My husband's just gonna find me one day and marry me as I am, who I am as I was. That would have happened by now, because the entire reason why I was even going to community meetings and putting myself out there in the community in the first place was to be found by my husband. And I was doing it for years. And all I was finding were other sisters to network with, other sisters to hang out with. All I was finding was projects for me to work on. I was not finding brothers who wanted to take me out on dates and spend time with me, make me their wife. And it's sad. It was sad to admit that. It was hard to just admit that while I know I have the qualities, I can cook, I can clean, I can bring culture to the home, I'm nurturing, I can submit, I should be submissive and sweet, and all of these things, all of these wife qualities, I believed I had. I was missing some key qualities. I was missing something. I wasn't taught that. And when I looked at how, at my family and the women around me and the way I was, the nurturing, the way I was raised, and some of those blue pill mentalities, those were the reason why I had this blue pill mentality. I knew that black feminism wasn't for me. I knew feminism wasn't needed. But I also couldn't see where feminism began and ended as far as my life views on sex and gender and how to act. I could see the hardcore feminism, but I couldn't see the softcore feminism. And I needed to get rid of that. I didn't know what it looked like. I saw wives. I started to spend time around wives and try to be around them and see how we were different, but I couldn't figure it out. And so I knew, at this point I was red pill. I knew I needed to do better, but I didn't know how to. At the beginning of that, I was at a space of courage, the consciousness of courage, and I wasn't equipped. And so I'm very grateful to one of my cousins. He tagged me under a post. He showed me a list of ways to respect a man and how to show your man respect. And I realized that whoever wrote this book knows what I need. And that book is Man Leads. A Man Leads, Woman Follows, Everyone Wins. And it's written by a sister for sisters to help us understand how to do better. And so I'm gonna leave. So I started with that book, and I eventually went to wife school, and I am now a certified wife. And the moment I started to follow that list, before I even bought the book, before I even got the book, the moment I followed the list, my life started to change socially. And my interactions with all males, got better. I was able to identify the good from the bad, and just everything got better, y'all. And so I'm saying this to say that if you're a sister and you want to figure out how to be more feminine, you want to get on this red pill for us ladies, feminine, which is femininity, pink ribbons and bows and flowers and smiles and pearl necklaces and dresses and being a housewife, being taken care of, being loved by men and truly loving them and feeling safe in the company of our black men, being protected by our black men. Just realize that if you're, you may need more than what you're getting. And I needed Man Leads. And I posit that almost every single last one of us sisters needs Man Leads, needs wife school. And a lot of our brothers, almost all of our brothers need Man Leads and Husband Summit. Because there's a male counterpart, Husband Summit. And so I'm going to leave us with that. Please like, comment, subscribe. And let me know your thoughts. As far as my journey. I'm sharing this with you guys for the purpose of letting you all know that this is not an overnight thing. This is not a journey. This is not a quick thing. And it's going to require humility. It's going to require courage. It's going to require being willing to say, I was wrong. You are right. You know what's best for me, and I don't. And you're just going to have to learn how to deal with it. You're gonna learn how to be a little upset, be a little frustrated, be a little angry even, and turn that anger into sadness. Because feminine women don't get mad because sad. And something wrong with being sad, being vulnerable, being weak. How to be vulnerable, how to be weak, how to say you're right, how to let someone else take credit for what you do. It's okay. Swallow the red pill, sweetheart. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to have it all. And we're going to discuss that more and what that means in future videos. So I say thanks to you all for your patience. And again, like, comment, subscribe. What are your thoughts? Do you think I'm really red-pilled? Do you think I have further to go? And do you think you should be red pilled? Are you red pilled? And what else do you want me to discuss? I love to hear what you think. I read my comments. I read all of my comments. Even if I don't necessarily respond to the comments, I read them all. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you another day. Bye.